A welfare check on Memorial Day weekend in 2016 revealed an empty apartment in what would be the beginning of a missing persons case. 42-year-old Liliana Moreno and her 8-year-old daughter Daniela had disappeared. No signs of struggle, no explanation. For nearly a decade, the case seemed to grow colder with each passing year until an arrest in 2024 shook the case open. Yet the most important answers remain out of reach. Where are Liliana and Daniela? This is their story.
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Amy.
And you're listening to She Goes by Jane. At the end of this episode and every episode, we will be joined by a special guest who will read an original poem by Amy Baker about the women we're featuring. This week, we are joined by Sofia Yepes.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Amy.
How have you been?
Pretty good. How have you been?
Good.
Wait, you don't sound sure.
I don't know. This case that we're talking about today.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every episode we do is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
This one does require some extra care, both for our missing persons and for our listeners. So just because it involves not only a mother, but also her young child. So,
okay.
Yeah. Their story does need to be heard, though I do know that cases involving children this young can be especially hard to sit with for some of our listeners. So I just want to put that out there as a care note before we get anywhere today.
Yeah, it's a good thing to keep in mind. And these also do tend to take a lot out of you when you're doing the research for them too, so...
Yeah, so it's been a week.
Yeah.
So I researched this. I also was researching some pieces for my Girl Hunt newsletter. So yeah, it's been a week. But today though, I want to make sure we give them enough time. We are shedding light on Liliana Moreno and her 8-year-old daughter Daniela. So they lived in the Miami-Dade area of Florida. And we're just going to say that Memorial Day weekend in 2016, Liliana's sister, who was living in Colombia, the country, not a city, tried calling her several times. And each attempt just went unanswered.
Well, we're already getting right into it.
We are just getting right into it, right?
Okay.
So her sister, she's worried. Increasingly worried over that weekend. She asks police to perform a welfare check, and when officers arrived at Liliana's apartment, they find it empty. Now, within days, members of Liliana's family flew from Colombia to Florida, and they searched fields and parking lots and roadsides. They were desperate for any trace of Liliana and Daniela, and for nearly 9 years, this case has remained cold. There's been very little progress on it, and very little news coverage. So I've said before that I think very often podcasts will shy away from stories where there's just not a lot of information. And what that does is it exacerbates the problem of not featuring and getting the word out about cases like Liliana's and Daniela's.
Do you think that it's also because she's not American born, right?
No. So I do think that adds to some of the layers of problems when it comes to getting news coverage. And I think when we're talking about stories and stories that are undercovered, these are those stories. So I'm hoping this podcast reaches some people that can help, but also just telling their stories and getting their names out there. Now, in late 2024, so last year, someone was arrested in connection with their disappearance. And that case has yet to go to trial, but a lot of what we know might have happened has come out with that information. Again, the person has not been convicted. And I do believe everyone has the right to a trial. So I'm just going to be a little couching that in accused of kind of language, but there's some evidence here.
Okay. So it's most likely, but we don't know.
Well, yeah. So that person deserves a right to a trial.
Right.
The people in their lives obviously are in support of that person. On the other hand, there was a lot going on here. The information that has come out with the initial court hearings, that does add some layers to it. So, yeah. Now, before we walk through the timeline of this disappearance, I just want to pause and share a little about what we know about Liliana and Daniela and who they were in life, because they were so much more than the circumstances that we're talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Liliana, she was born in 1973 in Colombia. And while little has been published in U.S. newspapers about her early life, we know that she had a degree in architecture and design from the Universidad del Valle in Cali. And so after moving to the United States, she worked for a construction group in Florida. Living far from her family was pretty difficult, but living in the United States and doing her kind of work opened new doors, new opportunities for her. It's through that work that she met a man who I'm going to refer to as G. And as always, my practice is that we use initials when we're speaking about someone who is a suspect or has been charged to keep the focus on the victims and their names, right? Now, to be clear, G has not been convicted of this crime in this case, but we're just using that for now.
Okay.
Now, when Liliana and G first connected in 2006, he was married with children. Their relationship was complicated, and the exact nature of it is pretty unclear. But G would later say they were never officially together, though others described it as closer and more consistent than what he admitted.
Him and Liliana?
Yes.
Okay.
So they start...
So it would have been like an affair?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's at the very least a sexual affair. And it's definitely not a one-night stand situation.
Okay.
Now, the two were together pretty regularly. And at the time, Liliana didn't believe that she could get pregnant. She said as much to G. So when she did become pregnant in early 2007, it likely came as a surprise to the both of them. Now, G reacted poorly. He's already a married father. He doesn't want to have another child, particularly not with someone he viewed in the realm of a mistress, right? So Liliana, though, she wanted to continue with her pregnancy, and she gave birth to Daniela in October of that year. So for many years, Liliana raised Daniela on her own because he wanted no contact with them.
Sorry, I'm just doing math here. She's the same age as my son.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That always makes things a little bit, if she would have lived, she'd be doing all kinds of college things right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, she'd be at that kind of point in her life. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let you continue, though.
Okay. So now you can picture,
yeah, I know.
Kind of
how much she's missed out on.
Yeah. And kind of like what her mom, Liliana would be doing at the same time that you were doing.
We would be going through the same stage of life right now.
Right.
Both of us. Yeah.
Now, again, so she has no contact with G for many years, and she's just a single mom raising her kid. Now, despite her father's absence, Daniela just grew up well-loved by her mother's side of the family. Daniela's uncle, who was Liliana's brother, said of her, Daniela is happy, she's really smart, pretty, and sweet. All the people that know her say she's like honey. Now, things changed between Liliana and G when Liliana happened to see his work truck one day. And so she confronted him. And whether it was because of the public setting or a shift in his perspective, soon he actually began paying $375 each month in child support. In time, the two kind of reestablished some form of relationship, though really accounts differ on its nature. A friend of Liliana's who had known her for 12 years and who was actively involved in Liliana and Daniela's life would later say, I have seen the father 2 or 3 times. He had his highs and lows, but they did not have a normal relationship. The only thing they had in common was the little girl. She's a very normal person, and it struck me that she would do everything to give her daughter a better life. And then he added more darkly of G and Liliana's relationship. She always told me that he had his bad moments and he would threaten her. It was really Liliana then who remained a steady presence in Daniela's life. She raised her daughter in her condo, creating stability and normalcy. And Daniela saw her mother as her primary parent and caregiver. Liliana's brother said his sister always protected her daughter. And Liliana didn't grow up knowing G's other children, and his involvement was really inconsistent. Most of their interactions really seemed to be maybe dinners out sporadically, but Liliana was always there, never far from her daughter. For Daniela, home was with Liliana, and their bond was central to both of their lives. But in 2016, things began to change. Though Liliana had been in G's life for, at that point, 10 years, his wife finally learned about their relationship. Not only that, she learned about Daniela's existence.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Like a whole...
Imagine not knowing for 10 years.
Yeah. That you can trace it back.
And that your husband has this other child, too. And so they're still married at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously. Wow. Okay.
I get the sense that this was like it, like the betrayal of their vows, their relationship, like finding out the secret is just like not. So she files for divorce.
I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would just, there's no.
There's no coming back from that.
No.
Okay.
Like legit, I was like side-eyeing my husband as I was writing this, and he's like, I work from home and I never leave the house. It's like, I don't know.
How much do I really know you?
Yeah.
You seem to be home, but are you?
Are you sneaking out the attic? Right? Like, yeah. So
That's
just
so
like,
funny.
I just can't imagine
learning
this. But she is granted $912 a month in child support, right? On Memorial Day weekend, Liliana's sister, Hialeah, kept calling from Colombia. Liliana never answered, which was something completely out of the ordinary for her, which is like, we see this over and over, right? Like, it's always that like moment where you're like, this is not typical of the person that I love, right?
Right.
Now, the two spoke daily. There was no way Liliana would miss several of her sister's phone calls. So, concerned, Hialeah contacted some of Liliana's friends to see if any of them had heard from her, but wasn't successful. It was possible that someone had seen her out to dinner that weekend, but it was really hard to confirm anything. Finally, on May 31st, Hialeah called police and asked them to do a welfare check on her sister. When police entered the condo, nothing was obviously amiss at first glance. Liliana and Daniela weren't there, but everything seemed to be in order. There was nothing to indicate a struggle or an act of violence had happened there. But as police began to look closer, like more details just seemed wrong. There was food out on the stove that looked like it was like partially prepared for a meal. Liliana's wallet, her passport, her credit cards, all the things that she would have needed if she went somewhere, those were in the apartment. And outside, her car was in the parking lot.
Right. So that really doesn't seem right once you start looking, does it?
Right. So it's just like, there's enough there to go, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Which, kudos to the police in this regard, because I feel like there's been other situations where they're just like...
They're like, oh yeah, she just prepared half that meal and then ran away.
And you're like, that doesn't seem
all right. No.
Yeah. Now, again, they start questioning, where could she have gone? Where could her daughter have gone? Like, without any of those just things that they had, right? So police next contacted Daniela's school to see if she had been in. Now, Daniela attended the John I. Smith K-8 Center in Doral. Though it had been a holiday weekend and there hadn't been school on Monday, they soon learned that she actually hadn't been to school on the Friday before or that Tuesday.
And when was the last time her sister heard from her? Was it before Friday too?
So after Friday. So she did hear from her, but May 31st is just like this turning point for her, I think.
Okay.
Now, this all would have been like perhaps news that police would have found chilling, as each new piece of information is kind of leading them to believe that something might be amiss, particularly because they have a child missing as well, right? Now, suspicion immediately fell on G.
Okay, so back then he was already on their radar.
Completely.
Okay.
Her sister had already told police that he had called her on May 31st to say that he had been unable to get in touch with Liliana.
Oh.
Right. Now, on the surface, you'd be like, oh, so he was concerned because he couldn't reach her either. Right?
Right.
But instead of reading like a concerned romantic partner, her sister was immediately suspicious because in the 10 years that her sister had known G, like he had never reached out to anyone in the family.
Okay.
So she's like, why am I hearing from this guy now?
Is he doing like the exact opposite from all the men we usually hear about? Like, usually when you're telling me these stories, it's like the husband is just like, oh yeah, I thought she just went somewhere. Or the boyfriend is like, I don't know where she is, but I wasn't really concerned.
Yeah.
And he's doing the exact opposite, where he's
reaching out.
Reaching out and overdoing it.
Yeah. So she's like, that is weird enough.
Okay.
That I'm uncomfortable with this. Now, added to this are reports that Liliana had gone to the Colombian consulate in Miami to express her fears over threats that he had made towards her. Now, the consulate has never revealed like what those were or what happened, but one of Liliana's family members said, friends told us they really were threats. Although she never told us G was threatening us, he said he was going to do something to her or her family in Colombia. But we don't know what was the motive behind that threat. Like, why was he threatening them?
But the consulate they would be working with the police on this, right? Like, just my own curiosity.
Yeah, so it's just
not a public.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, they're not talking to the newspapers about whatever that was. Now, police went looking for G. They don't have to look for him too hard. He's at his house, and around midnight, they go and talk to him at his home address. Inviting them in, G readily admitted to having an affair with Liliana. He said the last time he had heard from her was on May 30th. She had texted complaining that he hadn't met up with her like he had promised to do. On the way, the two argued. As the argument continued, he stopped the vehicle near the Home Depot, but it's not at the Home Depot, it's on the roadway. And the two got out. And he said that's when Liliana lashed out at him and she scratched him on his arm.
Did he have scratches?
I'm assuming so, although the reports don't make that clear currently. No.
Wait, and just for my own curiosity, so this is after his wife finds out, right?
Yes.
All of this is it close to after?
I'm not sure. So
We're
I know
not
it's
sure,
all happening in the same year. So the divorce and Liliana's disappearance, it's all in the same time frame.
Okay.
Right. Now, he said he pulled over, he dropped them off, they got into this argument, she scratches him.
And he just leaves her there?
Yes, he drives away.
Okay.
Which I have some... You left your child?
You left your kid there, too.
Now, he said he drove to a warehouse that he had in an area called Medley, and he spent about 15 to 20 minutes at this warehouse, kind of cooling down, doing some work before deciding to drive back to the spot where he had left them to pick them back up. When he got there, they were gone. Now, whether or not the police ever believed him is doubtful, but the next day, G called the Miami-Dade police and offered to assist with the investigation. Reportedly, he wanted to show them photos of his warehouse and the area where he had dropped them off. So in this case, I think he falls under some suspicion, one, because of his relationship with Liliana, but also he's doing too much.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, the information about the warehouse sends the police to Medley. They do their own search. They're scouring the area, checking inside the warehouse and the dumpster. There's a truck that's parked nearby, and they have yet to reveal what they found that day. But the police had the dumpster hauled away and reportedly left with several bags of potential evidence. So they're definitely suspicious of this guy at the time.
Okay. So he works with her. How does he have a warehouse?
He's a construction worker.
Okay.
So she's an architect. He's a construction worker. They kind of met through the building world.
Okay.
Yeah. So in addition to searching this warehouse area, they also search a canal. They also look at the roadway area where he said he had left Liliana and Daniela. Not long after, police issue a bolo or be on the lookout for, and they're looking for G. They say he's in a rented Home Depot kind of work truck van type situation. And police are warning that he could be a danger to himself. Okay. Doesn't take them long to find G on their own. He is parked in the same Home Depot parking lot. He said that he had been taking Liliana and Daniela too, right? So they never make it to Home Depot, he says. But anyway, they find him parked there.
When? This is
This is after. They've searched his warehouse.
Why would he be in the Home Depot parking lot?
I don't know. I feel like this is like some sort of...
Isn't that weird? Why would he be in the parking lot?
Spot he likes to go to. The Home Depot features...
Well, I know he...
prominently here.
Not product placement.
No.
We're not sponsored.
Yeah.
But, I get it. That's probably where he buys a lot of his things, but it just is weird that they find him there.
Of all places.
Yeah, because that's kind of where he left them.
Yeah, so he left them supposedly on the way there,
Yeah.
and then they find him there. It's a little strange. But when they find him, though, they do find that he has consumed some sort of poisonous substance. They don't know that, I don't think, initially, but when they spot him, they kind of move in. And when they get close, he's holding a box cutter. And as they approach, he places it against his neck and he threatens to take his own life.
So in the parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
he's taken poison
Mm-hmm.
and he's holding a box cutter.
Yes. Right. Now, the police, they're concerned for his safety. They're concerned for the safety of the officers. And like one police officer deploys a taser. Now,
but he's holding a knife.
Well, yeah, it's a box cutter. I mean,
box
I think
cutter to his own
throat. I mean, I think he's like hoping that you would just like hit him with a taser so quickly that he would just like
not have time to jerk and cut himself.
Right. But unfortunately, this is ill-timed. The prong of the taser actually hits him in the eye.
Oh.
Yeah. So his eyeball gets tased,
so I was worried about the box cutter, and here he is actually getting injured, but
by the taser
prong.
Yeah. You know, once I had a student who asked me if I wanted to be tased.
Why?
He was in law enforcement, and he was like, do you want to try it out? And I was like, absolutely not.
He was offering to tase you.
Yeah. For funsies.
Just so you knew what it felt like?
I guess.
And you didn't even consider it?
Never. I do. No. No. Okay. Anyway.
Okay. Whoa. So what happens to an eye once it gets...
Well, he loses his eye. He ends up losing his eye.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, officers said during the course of this, G does speak to them in Spanish during this exchange they're having, right? And he did say to them, apparently, I feel guilty for what happened to Liliana and Daniela.
But I mean, even if he was innocent, he could because he left them there and now they're gone? Or because he did something?
I mean, this will become a sticking point.
Right.
Specifically because it's vague, right?
It's vague. And an innocent person can say that, but so could a guilty person.
Right. Now, though he remains a person of interest, he's not arrested. He was hospitalized for the injury to his eye, with his lawyer stating, I do fear that the rush to judgment by police and focusing on an innocent man has hindered their efforts. G wants nothing more than to hear from Liliana and Daniela are safe and unharmed. He was fully cooperated with investigators, and he will continue to do so through my office.
Do you think, just going back to this whole eye taser incident, do you think that even if he was like obviously guilty and you did something like that and like accidentally blinded somebody, would there be enough guilt that you might be like almost downplaying their role in the crime because you're like, oh my God, I just like tasered someone's eye out?
Oh, for like the police officers?
The police officers. Is there a point where like
you're
maybe
like,
the case can fall apart a little bit because at that point they're just like backtracking and being like, oops, we really messed up here?
Well, so the police... On the police side, it does not appear to be, but this does become a huge part of what his lawyer ends up saying. Like, basically, anytime they question, or there's an article written around this time of the disappearance, mostly his lawyer will just kind of lean back on, like, well, the real story here is my client's eye.
Right.
So it does become kind of a shield in some regards. Yes. But, like, on the lawyer end of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's just like... Yeah. Okay. I'll let you get back to it. But wow.
Now, meanwhile, there's an extensive search that's launched for Liliana and Daniela. Their family, having arrived from Colombia just one day after they realized the pair was missing, they joined in. They handed out flyers. They're physically searching Miami-Dade County. I want to find my sister, Liliana's brother Eduardo said simply. Now, by the end of the month, a large-scale search involving police, former military members, canines. There's volunteers with the Missing Children Global Network. They're scouring an even broader area. They're even joined by a man named Carlos Aguilar, whose son Christian had recently been missing and found murdered. So it was drawing in people who were there to support them, and as well as Venezuelan activist Oscar Puig. Fernando Alvarez, who's a volunteer with the Missing Children Global Network, said, "We are focusing on a fairly large area, and that's why we've called to help us from volunteers who have experience in searching forested areas that are difficult to access. That's why we have come with trained dogs, motorcycles, and all-terrain vehicles." But those searches, they yielded no new clues. By the time 100 days had passed since they were reported missing, hope was dwindling for everyone involved in the case. Family members had contacted psychics, hired private investigators. They tried to follow up on new theories to no avail. So that whole, they're just focusing on this one guy. Her family was like, maybe this happened, maybe this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Eduardo, Liliana's brother, seemed to wrestle with both disbelief and hope. He said, "We need to know what happened with my sister and niece. This can't happen here. I have hope." Her sister, though, was struck by the enormity of what they were facing as a family. She said, "I don't want to spend the rest of my life like this." Just a few days ago, they found the remains of a little boy after 28 years because the main suspect in the case never talked until now. "We really need to solve this. I need to find them. We need to know what happened to them in order to be able to move on with our lives."
Ooh, it's really that idea of not knowing the unknown, right? And
Yeah.
Her sister was not dealing well with that.
No, I think because her sister had an awareness of what these missing persons cases can be and was projecting what does this look like,
for us. Yeah. 28 years just because somebody won't say something.
Yeah. And her brother, meanwhile, was like, maybe we'll find them. Maybe, I have hope.
Yeah.
So this is also kind of classic in what we see in terms of different family members being at different places at different times.
Different ways of coping or not coping, right?
So the family, they're searching, they're hoping and praying Liliana and her daughter would be found. But by that point, G was already back at work. But Liliana's family was not prepared to let G forget Liliana and Daniela. As time passed, so as it became years, they started to hold yearly vigils outside his home, hoping that their presence would spur him to provide more information, but it wasn't to be. In 2021, which was 5 years after Liliana and Daniela disappeared, the FBI announced that they would be offering $25,000 as a reward for information in this case, and I do believe that is still standing. Reflecting on the past 5 years, Eduardo said, "The last time we spoke with my sister and niece was May 30th. It was Memorial Day. It's funny. We complete 5 years when in the beginning we were expecting a couple of days, a couple of weeks." Not everyone, though, was still with them. In the 5 years since Liliana's father had passed away, "My dad died waiting for an answer," Eduardo said. "I hope we can find any answer that I owe him." Now, those answers may soon be coming because in late October of 2024, G was arrested. The press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida read, "G did willfully and unlawfully seize, confine, unveil, decoy, kidnap, and abduct, and carry away and hold a person, that is Liliana Moreno, for reward and otherwise did use a means, facility, and instrumentality of interstate commerce, that is, a cellular telephone, the internet, a motor vehicle, on the homestead extension of Florida's Turnpike, in the commission and in furtherance of the offense."
What?
Yeah, so...
What? You just said a lot right now.
Yeah. So what they're saying here is essentially it's the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's the FBI that's involved. So it has gone out of local control. It's a bigger case. And that's because he used these kinds of things like a cell phone, the internet, a vehicle, the homestead extension of Florida's Turnpike.
So it's basically just his way of saying that
it's our jurisdiction.
It's their jurisdiction, but do they have evidence of him using
all of those things?
All of those things?
Well, yeah, because the indictment provides some information about what led to his arrest.
Okay.
But of course, more will be forthcoming as this leads to a trial. I do warn people that sometimes those trials do take much more time than you think they're going to.
Okay.
Now, remember, G has not been convicted, but this is the case that the prosecution will be laying out when it does come to trial. According to federal prosecutor Dwayne Williams, the ending of G's marriage and his financial obligation to both women is what allegedly led to his decision to end things more permanently.
Killing Liliana and Daniela? Is that the ending things more permanently?
Yes. So that is what the federal prosecutor is saying.
Okay. So instead of paying both his wife and Liliana, he chose this.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, part of the indication that G may not have been truthful about the course of events on the last day Liliana and Daniela were known to be alive, he had claimed to have left them on the side of the road, making explicit where that location was. Not only that, he was like, look at the photos, right? Surveillance video from local business indicate that all three were actually in the vehicle. They did arrive at the Home Depot.
So he didn't stop on the road.
So he said before, like, we stopped on the side of the road.
But he didn't.
But the vehicle was at the Home Depot, but nobody got out at that location.
But we know that all three are in the vehicle?
Yeah, so like in the video, you can see
three
people.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, surveillance videos from the location where he said he left them indicates no one was dropped off at that time.
Okay.
So they're like, that's not true. Now, for what it's worth, G's defense attorney, Philip Reisenstein, he says that it could simply be a case that G doesn't remember the location exactly where he left them, and that he may have dropped them off somewhere else. But of course, the prosecution does not agree with this at all. They allege that on May 28th, which was 2 days before the disappearance, he brought both Liliana and Daniela to a restaurant called Adrian's Fish Market, and they had dinner there. And then he drove them to his warehouse, which was nearby at Northwest 123rd Street. The prosecution alleges that this was simply a way to get the two comfortable with being at the warehouse location, that they'd seen it before, they're not weirded out by being taken to the warehouse. On the day they disappeared, 2 days later, they claim that he brought them there again, and this time to dispose of them.
So he was getting them comfortable with the location?
That's what they allege, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Now, another key piece of evidence against G is his behavior with a neighboring warehouse. There was a business owner that made custom T-shirts, and he reported a strange encounter with G. He said that G had approached him about a T-shirt order that had been placed with his company, but the business owner was really confused because that order didn't exist. So he was like, what are you talking about?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, he said that then G starts asking him if he could inspect the man's security cameras, telling him that he's concerned about a spate of like recent burglaries in the area. There were cameras from that man's warehouse that kind of faced towards like G's is in view.
Did the man let him?
Yeah, the man agreed and showed him the footage because
he had no idea.
No, like, why would you? And so he's like, oh, yeah, are you worried about burglaries? You know, they share a warehouse, like an area with the warehouses. So,
okay.
Now, on May 31st, the man's warehouse was burglarized, and the only thing missing or damaged were the cameras and the recordings.
So he looked at them, and then they went missing.
Yeah. Now, additionally, G's phone records indicate that his cell phone was off from 10:55 a.m. to 1:41 p.m., and prosecutors believe that this was when he was disposing of Liliana and Daniela's bodies. And they say he has twice admitted to involvement. And the first is to the police that night when he had the box cutter and he said, I feel guilty for what happened to Liliana and Daniela. The second admission, they say, was in 2023, and that's when Liliana's family learned that he would be flying into Colombia, and they met him at the airport and confronted him there. Her mother begged to know what happened to her daughter. You'll find out in my will, he allegedly told them. Now, during the course of the confrontation, he was punched in the face by one of Liliana's relatives.
Weren't you after the will remark?
Right. Like, her family goes hard for her.
Like, come on.
Yeah. Now, G's lawyers do the same thing that we were just pointing out. They say that, like, neither statement is a direct admission of guilt.
Right.
Right. So, like, I feel guilty. Like, that could mean for leaving them on the side of the road, and I never should have done that. Or it could mean, for kidnapping and killing them.
Right.
you'll find out in my will. Like, what does that
come
mean?
on.
Right. So
That's
it's like
playing with them at that point.
These vague statements. Now, next year will be the 10-year mark since Liliana and Daniela went missing. And despite the possibility of a trial in the future, her family is still left with few answers. We were just like family waiting for one day, maybe getting the information where my sister and niece are located, her brother said of the arrest. Our main goal is to know what happened to them, more than looking for a guilty person or somebody that has done something. And he said, I'm hoping he can open his eyes and say what happened with my sister and niece.
Sophia is a talented actor, producer, and podcaster known for her compelling performances on stage and screen. Born in Medellin, Colombia, and raised in Queens, New York, Sophia's passion for storytelling began early in life. Currently, Sophia released The Low End Theory, a film she co-wrote, produced alongside Atomic Features, where she also stars. With credits that includes appearances on the acclaimed Showtime series Ray Donovan and a memorable performance in the theater production Danny and the Deep Blue Sea, as well as the independent film Ganymede, Sophia continues to captivate audiences with her authenticity and talent. As she continues to explore new projects and opportunities, Sophia remains committed to her craft and to telling real and raw stories that resonate with audiences worldwide. Sophia strives to tell stories from the female, Latina, Indigenous, Afro-Latino perspective and empower women both in front of and behind the camera. When not creating multidimensional projects in Hollywood, Sophia is equally committed to raising up the voices of single mothers and breaking societal norms. What started out as a podcast called As a Mother, which grew from anger at the unfair expectations of single mothers, has expanded into a community called Sana Sana Single Mama, which now focuses on resources for healing for single mothers coming in 2026. Resources will include access to family lawyers, assistance with funds, therapy, retreats, and more.
The house takes its shape from the salt pans it nestles close to. Here, the architect dreamed of turrets and archways into courtyards, and windows overlooking the egrets, their long legs skimming the water. The breeze carried so many grains of salt, the air itself shimmered. But she imagined a house without thresholds, no doors leading outside. She built walls that could withstand hurricanes and the hot breath of wolves pushing against them. Inside, she painted murals, a forest of leaves and pathways, where small figures vanished just over the horizon. And each night she told her daughter a story of an architect who would build anything to keep her daughter safe.
For more information about our show, please visit shegoesbyjanepodcast.com.
Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Amy.
Free audio post-production.